For evicting my stepsister after my stepdad tried to give her my condo? My stepfather, Rick Thompson, secretly moved his daughter and her entire family into my condo. To top it off, he threw my belongings into the garage as if they were sacks of trash. When I confronted him, he just shrugged and said, "She deserves that condo more than you do." The worst part is that my mom, Susan, took his side. So yes, I did what I had to do, and this is how it all went down. My name is Lauren Bennett, and I am 25 years old. For the past 6 months, I had been living in a small corporate apartment in Dallas assigned to me by my company. It was functional but had no warmth. Everything was practical, white, and a bit impersonal. A bed, a table, a small kitchenette that was barely big enough to heat something up, and that was it. It was nothing like the spacious 3-bedroom condo I inherited from my dad in Chicago. That place was a real home. My dad passed away in a plane crash just 1 year after I graduated from college. I still remember it perfectly. One day he was texting me about a work trip like it was nothing, and the next his name was on the news on the passenger list. I felt a blow to my chest, like someone had switched me off from the inside. My dad always made sure I had stability. My parents divorced when I was 13. It was not a divorce filled with shouting or endless fights. It was just sad. It was over, and that was that. He moved into his condo, and my mom and I stayed in the house. I saw him on weekends. For a couple of years we fell into a new rhythm, different but solid. About 2 years after the divorce, my mom met Rick. Rick was not some movie monster. He did not come in yelling or breaking things. He was worse in a different way because his mere presence seemed enough to slowly occupy the space that used to be mine. He was just there, sitting, giving his opinion, making decisions as if he had always belonged. It was not long before my mom married him, and Rick moved into our house. The following year, when I was about to turn 16, they had a son, my half-brother, Connor. From that point on, the most common phrase in my house became, "Lauren, can you give me a hand with Connor for a bit? Your stepfather and I are going out." It was never "How is school?" or "How are you feeling?" It was just chores, favors, and the new family that needed to be maintained. Then there was Amanda, Rick's daughter from his first marriage. She is about 10 years older than me. When my mom and Rick got together, Amanda was already married and had a baby. She would visit often with her husband, Derek, and their son, and my mom would dote on them as if they were guests of honor. There was a special smile and a sweet tone of voice that I almost never heard directed at me. I was 17 when it truly hit me that I had become something like a piece of furniture in my own house. It was during a family Christmas gathering, one of those holiday get-togethers with gift exchanges and promises to see each other soon. Amanda arrived with Derek and the baby. I came home from school exhausted, and when I walked into my room, I saw it was not my room anymore. My bed was not where it always was. My things, my books, and my clothes were all piled up in the small room my mom used as an office. And my bedroom, the one I had my whole life, now had a crib set up in it and an open suitcase on my bedspread. My mom was in the hallway, avoiding eye contact. "It's just for the holidays," she said with that voice that pleaded. "Don't make this a problem. Amanda needs the space for the crib." I just nodded. I did not make a scene. I did not cry right there. I just swallowed my anger and said, "Okay." But something shifted inside me. Something that never quite settled back into place. As soon as I turned 18, I left for college. My dad paid for everything. My mom and Rick did not contribute a single penny. I barely ever went back home. At most, I would show up for my mom's birthday out of a sense of obligation. During vacations, my real home was my dad's condo, and my refuge was my grandmother, Evelyn, his mom. My grandma became my rock. She had a way of being with me that did not make me feel like a burden. She would listen without rushing me, offer me coffee and a snack, and provide a sense of calm that only some older people have. When my dad passed away, my grandma and I grew even closer. I moved into the condo he left me for good. It was a spacious place with beautiful light and a scent that said, "Someone who loved you lived here." I tried to rebuild something with my mom. I would visit her from time to time. I would see Connor, who was growing up curious and restless with bright eyes. But the reality of my situation always hit me. Every time Amanda came with her family, my mom would light up with excitement. By then Amanda had 2 kids. And guess where they stayed? in my old room as if that whole history did not exist. 6 months ago, I was given a temporary assignment in Dallas. It was a great opportunity for my career, a major project that would help me grow. Before I left, my mom offered to help with my condo. "We could rent it out while you're gone," she said one day at a cafe, with that little voice she uses when she has a plan already mapped out. "That way you'd get some extra cash." "No thanks," I replied firmly. "I don't want strangers living there." My mom pursed her lips, the way she does when she is holding back a response. Then she nodded. "Fine. I'll look after it then. I still have the spare key you gave me last year just in case." I went to Dallas, and life in the little corporate apartment became lonely but manageable. Work, fast food, and calls with my grandma. Every week we would talk about everything and nothing. The weather, what she had cooked, some light gossip from her building, and how I was doing with my project. Until last Thursday night. That day my grandma sounded different. Her voice was strained, as if she was struggling to say what was on her mind. "Lauren," she said, "I'm not one for gossip, but Mrs. Eleanor Hayes, a lady I play cards with, lives in your building. She told me something that has left me worried." I felt my stomach tie itself in a knot. What happened to my condo? There was a silence. Then my grandma said slowly, "She says Amanda and her family moved in shortly after you left. Your mom and Rick helped them move their things in." A chill went down my spine. "That can't be," I said, even though a part of me had already seen it coming. "I'm sorry, my dear," my grandma said. "I just felt you needed to know." I hung up and immediately called my mom. I tried to keep my voice light, as if nothing was wrong. "Hi, Mom. Just calling to see how you are." "Hey, is everything okay with my condo?" Yes, she answered too quickly. "Everything is fine. How about you? How's work?" "Good," I said. "You know, a friend from college needs a place to stay for a few days. I told her she could probably use my condo. She's going to stop by to get the key from you." I could hear her breath catch. A tiny silence, but it was filled with panic. "Oh, Lauren, I don't think that's a good idea," she said. "You always said you didn't want strangers there. Something could get damaged, and you're so careful with your things." "Mom," I cut her off. My voice was not soft anymore. "I know Amanda and her family are living in my condo." The silence was long. It made everything perfectly clear. "Lauren," she finally let out with a tired sigh. "Yes, it's true. But they had nowhere to go. Their landlord sold the building. And with the way rents are." "You did this behind my back," I interrupted. "You knew I didn't want anyone there." "Amanda isn't just anyone," my mom snapped. "She's family. She's Rick's daughter." "She's not my family," I said, feeling my hand tremble as I held the phone. "Don't be childish, Lauren. It's temporary. You're not even using the condo." "I want them out today," I said. "And I want you to give my spare key to my grandmother." My mom's voice hardened. "Amanda will stay as long as she needs to. You don't need it right now." "It's my condo," I shot back. "My dad left it to me." "I have things to do," she said coldly and hung up on me. I called back. No answer. I looked up Amanda's number. It went straight to voicemail. I paced around my tiny Dallas apartment like a caged animal. For 6 months, I had been paying hundreds of dollars in maintenance fees and utilities for a place I was not even living in, only to find out my own mother had moved her husband's family in. I picked up my phone and called my boss. "Paul, it's Lauren. I need to request a transfer back to the Chicago office. It's a family emergency." Paul did not ask too many questions. I had already earned his trust. He said he would look into it, and an hour later he confirmed. "Come back. Sort it out. I'll see you here when you're ready." The flight back felt eternal. Every minute my anger tightened its grip. I rehearsed conversations in my head, and none of them ended well. I landed in Chicago, grabbed my suitcase, and took an Uber straight to my grandma's house in Lincoln Park. When she opened the door, her face lit up, but then it changed when she saw my expression. "I didn't think you'd come so fast." She pulled me into a hug. She smelled of coffee and the soft perfume she always wears. It calmed me down a little, though the anger was still there, stuck in my throat. "I couldn't stay there," I told her. "I need to see what they've done to my condo." "First, I'm making you some tea," she insisted. You look worn out. While she was in the kitchen, I let Paul know I had arrived in the city. Then I sat at my grandma's table and watched her move efficiently, as if the world could not knock her down. Have you spoken to my mom since you told me? I asked. My grandma shook her head. No. Susan and I, ever since your father passed, we haven't gotten along. But I did drive by your building yesterday because I was still worried after what Mrs. Hayes told me. I saw their car. And I saw your car. My car, I said, nearly choking on my tea. The one you left in your mom's garage, she confirmed with a serious face. It was parked outside your building. They're using it. I felt my stomach churn. My condo, my things, my car. All of it as if I did not exist. I stood up. I'm going over there right now. I called an Uber and went to the building. It was an old remodeled structure, the kind that used to be a warehouse or a workshop and was now lofts with exposed brick and large windows. I had fallen in love with the place the first time my dad showed it to me. He told me, "You'll be safe here." Now standing outside, I felt like a stranger. I went up to the third floor and walked down the hall to Unit 307. My condo. I took a deep breath and knocked loudly. Nothing. I knocked again, harder. I could have sworn I heard movement inside, like footsteps or something being dragged, but no one opened the door. I took out my keys and put one in the lock. It would not turn. I tried again. Nothing. I froze. They had changed the lock. No way, I said, mostly to myself, and started knocking again. I know you're in there. This is my condo. I waited. Nothing. I left with anger rising in my throat and called another Uber. This time I was heading to my mom and Rick's house. It was rush hour, and the drive felt endless, just heavy traffic, as if the city itself was testing my patience. The house looked the same as always. Manicured lawn, trimmed hedges. The swing set Rick built for Connor in the yard. Everything looked perfect on the outside, as if nothing strange was brewing within. I rang the doorbell with more force than necessary. My mom opened it. Her face went from surprise to a hard expression when she saw me. Behind her, Rick appeared with his arms crossed. "Lauren," my mom said flatly, "what are you doing here?" That tone, as if I were an inconvenient visitor, shocked me for a second. What am I doing here? I repeated. I live in this city, and I live in a condo that you gave away without my permission. You should have stayed where you were, my mom replied. Everything was working just fine here. Working for who? I shot back. Rick stepped forward. Amanda and Derek need that place more than you do, he said, as if it were the most logical thing in the world. They have children, Lauren. You're just one person. That doesn't make it their condo, I said. It's mine. My dad left it to me. And you left it empty, my mom interjected. Amanda lost her place. Did you want us to leave them on the street? You could have asked me, I answered, or helped them find something else. Or they could have stayed here. Rick's expression grew heavier. There's no room here. Besides, Amanda deserves that condo more than you. She has a family to support. I felt my face burn. And my car, I said, remembering what my grandma told me. The one I left in your garage before I left? Rick shrugged. We gave it to Amanda. Her car broke down, and she needed a way to get around with the kids. I turned to look at my mom. I searched for something, a hint of regret, a doubt, the slightest bit of shame. Nothing. Her face was like a closed book. Your things from the condo are in the garage, she said, as if she were doing me a favor. You can take them with you now. They're in the way. In the way, I repeated, my voice hollow. As always. My mom tensed up a bit but said nothing. I'm calling a moving truck, I said, pulling out my phone. I stood there on her doorstep, not accepting her lukewarm offer to come in for a bit. I did not want to be there. I could not. When the moving truck arrived, I pointed the crew toward the garage. There were my things. Boxes piled carelessly, my chair, my nightstand, items tied with rope, as if they had cleaned out a space in a hurry. Where are we taking this, ma'am? The foreman asked. I gave him my grandma's address. While they were loading my things, Connor got home from school. He had his backpack on, his uniform a little crooked, and when he saw me, his face lit up. Lauren. He ran toward me, but my mom grabbed his arm. Go inside and do your homework, she told him. Lauren is busy. Connor's face fell. He looked at me, his eyes asking a question. Then he obeyed and went inside, looking back at me one more time before disappearing. When the last box was loaded, I turned to my mom. And what are you going to do when I get my condo back? I asked. Because I am getting it back. Don't cause trouble, Lauren, she warned me in a low voice. Amanda has nowhere to go right now. That's not my problem, I replied. I got into the passenger seat of the moving truck. As we pulled away, I saw my mom standing in the doorway with that face that says nothing and everything all at once. At my grandma's house, we unloaded everything into her garage. The move cost me several $100s, and every box we carried down felt like another piece of my life being torn away from me. After the crew left, my grandma put her arm around my shoulders. Now what? She asked softly. I looked at my boxes, my life packed into cardboard, the things my dad left me, the memories, all of it pushed aside so others could make themselves comfortable. I'll figure it out tomorrow, I told her. Right now I need to sleep. That night, lying in my grandma's guest room, I made a decision. They were sure I would do what I always did. Swallow my anger, adapt, stay quiet. But not this time. I got up early, showered, had breakfast with my grandma, and sat down with my computer to do some research. Not to play lawyer, but to understand what I could do without getting into a bigger mess. Property, possession, unauthorized entry, use of a vehicle. My grandma poured me coffee. What's the plan? She asked. I'm going to file a report, I said. They entered my condo without my authorization, and they're using my car. My grandma nodded seriously. I called to ask about the procedure, and was told the right thing to do was to go to the local police department to present the case. They also made it clear that a formal eviction takes time, but they could provide a civil standby to prevent conflict, create a record of the event, and facilitate a voluntary handover of the keys if the occupants agreed. I grabbed my identification, digital copies of the condo's deed, and the car's title. I gave my grandma a kiss and left. At the police department, an officer named Jenkins assisted me. She did not smile easily, but she had kind eyes. I explained everything. She took notes. If the property is in your name and there is no contract or authorization from you, it is documented as unauthorized occupation, she said, choosing her words carefully. And for the car used without permission, we will record it. I showed her the documents. She reviewed them, comparing the data. It's clear, she said finally. We can accompany you today to officially verify that you are the owner, request a voluntary handover of the keys, and prevent this from getting ugly. If they refuse, the refusal is documented, and you can proceed with the corresponding legal process. Let's do it, I said. For the first time in days, I felt like I was not alone. Today? I asked. Today, she confirmed. Give me an hour to coordinate. That hour passed in a blur of phone calls and bad coffee from a vending machine. I updated my boss, Paul, on what was happening. I told him I would handle it and be ready to return on Monday. As promised, Officer Jenkins returned with another officer, Officer Ramirez. They told me to meet them outside my building. I took an Uber since my car was still with Amanda. We met there and rode the elevator up to the third floor together. My heart was pounding. Officer Jenkins knocked firmly on the door of Unit 307. Police. Please open the door. Long seconds passed. We heard movement inside. Finally, a man's voice, Derek's, asked from behind the door. What's going on? Open the door, please, said Officer Ramirez, his voice serious. The door creaked open. Derek peeked out. When he saw me, his eyes widened. What's wrong with you, Lauren? He snapped. Open the door completely, Officer Jenkins instructed. Derek opened it, and there was Amanda in my living room, holding one child and with another peeking out from behind her legs. My condo, my space was filled with their things. Toys on the floor, a couch that was not mine, boxes, backpacks, clothes hanging around, and the walls, which used to be a soft gray, were now painted a bright, eye-watering yellow. Lauren, Amanda said coldly, you could have called. Called to enter my own condo? I replied. The one you moved into without my permission? Officer Jenkins stepped forward. Ma'am, she said clearly, the owner is present and has proven ownership. We are here to witness and request the voluntary surrender of the property and the keys. This is all being officially recorded." Amanda's face turned red. "My dad gave us permission," she said, pointing at me as if I were the intruder. "We had nowhere to go. We have kids." Officer Ramirez spoke calmly. "We understand the situation, but authorization must come from the property owner. If you refuse to surrender the property, the refusal will be documented, and the matter will proceed through legal channels. The most sensible thing to do is avoid further trouble and hand it over today." Derek clenched his jaw. "This is ridiculous," he said. "We've been here for months. We even made repairs." "Repairs I didn't ask for," I replied, looking at the yellow walls, and my living room turned into a play area. Officer Jenkins maintained her firm tone. "A voluntary surrender is requested today. You can take your essential items now. For the rest, a calm removal can be coordinated, but the property must be surrendered today. We're supposed to just..." Amanda started, her mouth agape in disbelief. "What about our things?" she demanded. "We're not leaving empty-handed." "Take what is necessary," Officer Ramirez responded. "Clothes, documents, basic items. For everything else, a record will be made and an agreement will be reached. This isn't about fighting. It's about setting things right." Amanda started to cry. The child in her arms grew restless. The other one clung to her leg. "We have 2 kids," she said with a broken voice, looking at me. "Where do you want me to go? How could you do this to family?" That is when something inside me ignited, but it was not blind rage. It was a hard, cold clarity. "Family," I repeated. "You were never my family, Amanda. You were the person my mom gave everything to that she took from me. My room, her attention. And now my condo and my car. I'm done." Amanda cried harder, as if her pride had been extinguished. "You're just as cold as your father," she spat with malice. My face went numb. "Don't you dare talk about my dad," I said, my voice low but so firm that even Derek froze for a second. "Get your things and leave my car keys on the table." Derek took a deep breath as if swallowing a fight. He put his hand on Amanda's shoulder. "Come on," he murmured. "Let's go to your dad's. We'll figure it out later." I stayed near the entrance while they packed in a hurry. Suitcases, clothes, toys, diapers. Amanda shot me looks filled with anger between her sobs. The officers remained there, making sure no damage was done. About an hour later they were ready. Amanda walked past me without a word. The children followed her, one sniffling, the other silent. Derek left a set of keys on the table with a sharp thud. "We fixed a leak in the bathroom and replaced a few things," he said bitterly, as if trying to get the last word. "You're welcome." I did not answer him. Not because I was at a loss for words, but because I did not want to give them even that. When they left, Officer Jenkins asked if I wanted the issue with the car to be handled as a separate matter. I thought for a second. "I want it on the record, yes," I said. "But I don't want this to get any bigger. I just want my life back." They gave me some documents to sign, confirming the voluntary surrender, and that the authorities had witnessed the situation. Then they left. I closed the door alone and walked through my condo slowly, as if for the first time. I saw the ugly couch, the rearranged furniture, my messy kitchen. My workspace turned into a kid's room. I went into the bathroom and saw it. Written on the mirror in red lipstick were 2 large words: "Bad daughter." I stood there looking at my reflection behind the words. If this had happened to me 6 months earlier, I might have started crying right there. I might have felt guilty. But in that moment, all I felt was something cold and firm. I grabbed a paper towel, wet it, and started to wipe away the lipstick slowly, without rushing, like someone cleaning a stain they no longer want in their life. When the mirror was clean, I looked out the living room window. Down below, I saw Derek loading suitcases into a car that was not mine. My car was parked nearby, and for the first time I saw it for what it was, more proof that they had crossed every line. I watched them drive away, and when they disappeared, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. The next few days were a whirlwind. I called a locksmith and had the locks changed. I notified the building management that only I could authorize entry, and that no information or access should be given to anyone else. I ordered a deep cleaning. I arranged for a moving company to bring my things from my grandma's garage. It hurt to see my furniture out of place. My memories shifted around as if they were nothing. The first thing I did was paint. That yellow screamed at me. I took a whole day to return the walls to a soft gray, the color I liked. I got up on a ladder, roller in hand, and felt that with every stroke, I was reclaiming a piece of myself. My phone would not stop ringing. My mom called again and again. Rick too. And then Amanda. I did not answer. I had nothing to say. The only person I answered was my grandma. "They're staying with your mom," she told me in one call. Susan called me furious. I hung up. I don't have the patience for that anymore. "Thank you," I said, my paint roller still dripping. "Really, thank you." On the third day, while I was arranging books on the bookshelf, my phone rang again. It was my mom. I did not want to answer, but something in me, maybe a need for closure, pressed the button. "What do you want?" I said bluntly. "How could you do that to your sister?" she blurted out, her voice sharp in a way I had not heard in years. "You left them without a home with children." I took a deep breath and put the book down on the table. First, Amanda is not my sister. Second, I didn't leave anyone without a home. They're with you, which is where they should have been from the start. "But they can't stay here for long," my mom said, and for the first time, a note of real desperation crept into her voice. "This house isn't big enough for everyone." "Not my problem," I replied. "You should have thought of that before you gave away my condo without asking." My mom clicked her tongue as if I was the one who did not understand. "You're selfish," she snapped. "Amanda needs that condo more than you do." I stayed quiet for a second, hoping she would stop there. She did not. "Besides," she continued, lowering her voice a bit as if it were obvious, "your grandmother is getting old. She won't be around forever, and when she's gone, you'll inherit her house too. You can give your condo to Amanda. You have more than enough." I felt my throat tighten. "So that's it?" I asked quietly. "You think I have more than enough, so you get to decide how to distribute what is mine?" "Lauren, don't exaggerate," she said quickly. "We're talking about family." "No, Mom," I answered. "We're talking about my property. The property my dad left to me. And what my grandmother does with her house is her business, not yours." There was a pause. Then my mom changed her tone, as if putting on a friendly mask. "Look, Lauren, maybe we just caught each other at a bad time. Why don't you come over for dinner tonight? We can talk about this like adults. Connor misses you." That pulled at me. Connor. The little boy who looked for me with his eyes when my mom pulled him away. The little boy who was not at fault for any of this. But I straightened up. "The time for talking was before you took my condo and my car. There's nothing left to talk about." My mom fell silent, and I felt that if I did not say it in that moment, I would slip back into my old role. "I don't want you to call me anymore," I blurted out. "And don't come near my condo." "It's over, Mom," I said, and it hurt, but I said it. "As for Connor, tell him I love him. That when he's older, if he wants to find me, I'll be here. But you, Rick, and Amanda are no longer my family." I hung up before she could respond. I blocked her number, Rick's number, Amanda's number, and Derek's number. Then I sat on my reclaimed couch in my newly cleaned living room and I cried. Not for them. I cried for myself. For all the years I spent trying to earn a place where I was never going to be given one. The next morning there was a knock at my door. I looked through the peephole and was surprised. It was Paul, my boss. I opened it. "Good morning," he said with that calm smile he always has. "I brought some documents for your office transfer, and honestly I had a meeting nearby. I wanted to stop by and see if you were okay. May I?" "Yes," I answered, still looking confused as to why he was there. I made coffee. As it brewed, Paul walked around the living room. "This is a great place," he commented. "Much better than that little room they gave you over there." A small laugh escaped me. "Thanks. It was my dad's." We sat down with our coffee, and without planning to, I told him everything. The divorce, my mom's second marriage, my dad's passing, the inheritance. Amanda, the occupied condo, the car, the police report, the voluntary surrender, the painting, the cutoff. Paul listened without interrupting. When I finished, he thought for a moment. "Well," he finally said, "ready to get back to work?" "Yes," I replied. "I need to. I need a distraction. He nodded. Perfect. You start on Monday. I have a project that will be a great fit for you. When he left, I called my grandma. Come for dinner tonight, I told her. I owe you a decent meal. That evening, we ate in my dining room, which was now more orderly. We talked and I told her about the call with my mom. I cut her off, I said, a pang of guilt pricking at me. Sometimes I feel like that makes me a bad person. My grandma squeezed my hand. It makes you a person with boundaries, she said. And that's something your mother never respected. Your father would understand. I stared at my plate. I feel bad for Connor, I admitted. He'll grow up, my grandma said. He'll understand. And if he doesn't, that will be his decision too. But you can't carry the weight of everything your mother chose to do. Months passed. By the time fall arrived, it had been almost a year since I left for Dallas and several months since I got my condo back. I threw myself into work. I made my condo exactly how I wanted it, with no trace of them left. Every weekend I saw my grandma. Sometimes we would go get coffee, sometimes we would just be together. I found out through her that Amanda and her family, after being crowded into my mom and Rick's house for a few weeks, found a place to rent. I did not feel pleasure. I felt relief like when you finally close a door and stop the cold draft from coming in. One Saturday morning in early autumn, I was having breakfast at my usual cafe. It is the kind of place where they know me and I don't need to explain anything. I was sitting with my coffee and a pastry, looking at my phone, when someone sat down across from me without asking. I looked up. It was Connor. He had his backpack slung over one shoulder, as if he had come in a hurry. He had a nervous yet brave look in his eyes. Hi, Lauren, he said carefully. I was frozen. Connor, what are you doing here? How did you find me? He shrugged. Mom said once that you used to come here a lot. I've been coming every Saturday for about 3 weeks. I looked at him and my heart ached. Does your mom know you're here? He shook his head. She thinks I'm at soccer practice. I was about to scold him, but the warmth in my chest at seeing him there, having sought me out, won over. You shouldn't lie to her, I said softly. But you said that when I was older I could look for you, he replied, adjusting his backpack. I just turned 10. That's older, right? I could not help but laugh. Well, yes, I said. I suppose it is. I signaled to the waitress. Want a hot chocolate? Connor nodded, relieved. We stayed there. He told me about school, about his friends, about a teacher he liked, about a game they had won. He talked and talked as if he had been saving it all up to tell me. And listening to him, I felt something inside me begin to settle into place. I did not need my mom or Rick or Amanda. But maybe, just maybe, I could still be a big sister to this bright-eyed boy who, despite everything, had come looking for me. When we stood up to leave, Connor looked at me seriously. Can I come again next Saturday? I thought about it for a second. Not because of him, but for me, for the fear that something might get broken again. But then I saw his face and the answer was clear. Yes, I said. I'll be here. Same time, same table. Connor smiled as if he had been given the world. He ran off to catch his bus, turning once to look back at me. I stayed there for a moment with my now cold coffee, thinking about what family is. Not the one you are stuck with by obligation. Not the one that demands from you without caring for you. The one you choose. The one you build. Mine might be small, just my grandma Evelyn, Connor, and me, but it was real. And with that, for the first time in a long time, it was enough. Comment. I really hope this story touched you as deeply as it touched me. Setting clear boundaries is difficult, but it's one of the greatest acts of self-respect. You deserve to be surrounded by people who treat you with genuine kindness and respect. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is choose your own peace over people-pleasing. Healing truly begins when we take responsibility for protecting our own well-being. I've learned that it's okay to love people from a distance when necessary. Building a family of your own choosing, even if it's small, can bring real happiness. Take some time today to reflect on the relationships in your life and where you might need stronger boundaries. Remember that prioritizing your mental peace is never selfish. Thank you for spending this time with me, and I hope it inspires you to value yourself more every single day. If you liked it, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.